Yo, what's going on, family? Today I want to talk about the waiting and what do we do in the waiting. A lot of times, God will give us a vision, God will give us dreams about the things that we're supposed to do to enhance His kingdom here on earth. But what do we do when He gives us this vision, but yet we still have to wait? Yet He puts us in a season of consecration, a season where He proves things out of our heart. Right? There's a perfect example of this in the story of Joseph. I'm sorry. In the story of Joseph. Joseph had a dream that he would be exalted above his brothers and they would all end up bowing to him. And what happened was he ended up telling that dream to his father in the midst of his brothers, and they grew envious and had bitterness in their heart to the point where they sold him into slavery. Now, Joseph had this great dream of how his life was going to be, and I'm sure that he thought it would just be a easy road, like we all do, when God gives us visions and dreams of things that He's calling us to do. But Joseph had a hard road. Joseph was sold into slavery. Joseph was false in prison. He had to sit in prison for a time. And, eventually it came around to God's purpose being fulfilled in his life by providing for his family in a time of a drought. So I want to break this down a little bit and just give some understanding to it. That in the waiting, God is building character. God is pruning your heart of the things that does not no longer serve the purpose that He's calling you to. It may have served the purpose of our own will and doing things our way and what we wanted to do. But the things that God is removing from our hearts in the season of waiting, in the season of consecration, is the things that would eventually get in the way of us fulfilling His purpose. So He prunes our hearts. In John 15, He talks about that, about how He prunes the heart and how He prunes those who bear fruit so that they may become more fruitful. So that way we can sustain the things that God has given us the vision to obtain, right? So even in that time of Joseph being, put into slavery by his brothers and all the stuff that he went through, being false in prison, being lied on, and still being faithful to the Lord in that season, it's that dream that he had still ultimately came to pass. So I just want to encourage us today that even in our waiting, even in the times where we have a vision and we know that God has spoke to us and we know that He's calling us to do these things, that there might be a time where He asks us to wait, where He sets us aside for consecration for His special use, so that He can form us into what He wants us to be, to sustain it. A lot of us can bypass it and try to do it on our own will, and we'll end up being exhausted. It's tiring trying to do things on your own. But when you do it with the Lord and when you trust God in those processes, He literally carries you through it. There's not the grind to it. You don't have to grind for it. It'll be there. You still have to put the work in, right? You still got to do the things He's calling you to do. But there's peace there. There's joy. It's a season that is very much needed for those who believe and those who God has given a vision to do things for His kingdom. So when your season of waiting, I just want you to remember the scripture. In Luke chapter 16, verse 10, it says, Jesus said this. He said, "Whoever can be trusted with very little can also be trusted with very much. And whoever is dishonest with very little will also be dishonest with very much." It's about how we steward those seasons where God given us a vision, yet we're still here, right? We know what God's calling us to do, yet our circumstances does not match that. How do we steward that though? Are we still praying? Are we still reading our word? Are we still developing the relationships with the people that He put around us? Are we still planting those seeds? Are we still being a witness, or do we give up, right? So in the midst of Joseph's story, even though he went through all these different things, he remained faithful to the Lord. He remained faithful. And that's the same attitude we should arm ourselves with, an understanding that we got to be faithful with the little things that God has given us to do, even now, even the things he's cutting out of our heart, how do we steward those convictions? How do we honor those convictions and remain faithful to the Lord in that season? So I just say that if you're in the season of waiting, or if you feel like you're in a season of consecration and the Lord is molding you, let him mold you. Don't get in the way. He has the perfect way to craft your life. He has the perfect way to scoop these things out of your heart that will defile you. You know what I mean? And ultimately corrupt the purpose that he has for you. So I ask that you just continue to trust the Lord in your waiting. Trust the Lord in your season of consecration. Though it may hurt, trust the pruning process, right? The pruning process is so important because it shows that we bear fruit. It says in the Bible in John that those who bear fruit, he prunes so that they may become more fruitful. So even in that, how do you steward the fruit that's already there, right? You don't give it all up. You just remain faithful to the Lord and continue to do the work that he called you to do. Now, if this has blessed you, I ask that you just share this with somebody, comment on this post, and like it. I appreciate that. Love y'all. Peace.